Hello, Chris Keyack here, steel construction technology consultant, and in this video today I'm going to be showcasing an augmented and mixed reality software application called Visual Live. Now Visual Live is actually one of the first players to come into the industry when the HoloLens 1 came out, and then they migrated to HoloLens 2 as well as being able to support on mobile devices, which you can kind of see on the screen there. And in this video today, I'm going to demonstrate a little bit of both very briefly. I'm going to showcase me using this on the HoloLens 2 as well as my iPad Pro tablet. Now, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show exporting from Tekla Structures. So that way folks with a structural steel or concrete kind of workflow and background can kind of see how they can export the models and then leverage them with augmented and mixed reality. All right, let's go ahead and dive in. Now I'm going to showcase a workflow with Tekla Structures, and I'm doing this on purpose because most of Visual Live's content and tutorials showcases how to export models using Navisworks and Revit. And they actually have a direct integration or plugin inside of Revit and Navisworks to publish the models. Now Tekla Structures doesn't quite have that, but that's okay. You can still select all of the objects in your model and you can go export an IFC file. And if you manually create that IFC file, you can actually load that up to their web portal so that way the models can be loaded on the HoloLens and your iPad. Now, one restriction with Visual Live is that only one model can be loaded at a time. So you have to kind of plan out how you're going to structure your models. Now, I also recommend not exporting a large 2,000 ton plus project or a massive concrete project that is filled with rebar all in one shot. And the reason is because the headset and the mobile device can't necessarily process all of that level of detail on very large models. The other reason why I wouldn't necessarily suggest that all the time is because honestly, when people are processing a model out in the field in augmented reality, they're typically working in a specific sequence or area that they're going to be working on. And they don't necessarily need the entire model all in one shot for them to review. So you'll have to strategically plan out and then evaluate the performance of how large and complicated or detail rich your models are in working with the headset and mobile devices. Now, one thing that you can do is you can just select on specific objects. So again, let's say that there's some MEP work here that I want to export. I can just select that here, do selected objects, and then export that model. Now, I'm going to go ahead and showcase uploading that into the Visual Live web portal. Now, when I go here inside of my Tekla Structures model, I can see that I've exported the IFC file. Now, I'm going to need to go ahead and zip this up. Because it needs to be in a zip file before you actually upload this to the Visual Live cloud. Now, when you log into Visual Live on your web browser, you'll see here that there are a few different sample files that you can actually start with. Now, I've already uploaded a couple of IFC files already, but I'm going to showcase how you do this manually. So we've created the zip file here, and what we want to do is come over to the My Files. So I'm over here on the left-hand side of the screen and Model Files, and that will bring up this interface. And then at the upper right-hand corner, you'll see that there's this Upload button. Now, there is a video tutorial at the top kind of giving you instructions how to manually upload files, but I'm just going to show you that here. So I'm just going to call this Electrical Modification, and we'll just say Maintenance Items. And then what we can do is we can either click on this to browse to the file, or we can just drag and drop that file, that zip file that contains the IFC file, and upload that here. Now we're just going to go ahead and confirm once that's done. Now what will happen is the view will refresh here, and it's going to show you a processing message here on the model file. And basically it's taking that model, converting it to something that can be viewed on the HoloLens and the mobile device, and then once that's complete, you can then go ahead and do so. Now, if you have a workflow where you've received reference models, whether from the design team or MEP models or building envelope, and you actually have referenced those in Tekla Structures to coordinate around doing your structural steel or concrete, well, if you want to actually view all of those models combined together over in Visual Live, then you're going to need to have Navisworks and bring in all of those models together. So you'll bring in your structural steel or concrete model from Tekla Structures here, and then bring in your reference models and align them and overlay them all in Navisworks. Now, I'm in Navisworks Manage 2023, and the Visual Live plugin isn't up to date for this particular version of Navisworks yet, so I can't show that live, but they've got great tutorials which showcase how to do things and how to export. Now, one key thing I wanted to explain here is that you can see that I've referenced in multiple IFC files. So over here on the left, when I'm clicking in the tree view, you can see all of the different models. So that just shows you how you can combine those. And you can do that by going to append here and adding additional models. Now, once everything's aligned and in place, you'll actually see what I've done too is I've created basically a section box here. And so if we go into viewpoint and then we go to enable sectioning here at the top, that'll create the sectioning tools. And so what you can do is you can use the move command to sort of create this section box. So there's a box and a planes option. I would recommend using box because then you can kind of isolate specific sequences or phases or floor by floor. And then the idea behind this is that you'll save a viewpoint away. So you can see that I've already got dining room over here. Now, let's say that I move this over to living room. We can actually scale this so you can kind of change the size of the room and sort of the space that you're seeing. And then you can kind of move that as well. And then you can, from there, once you get that all set, essentially you do is save a viewpoint and then you can name that. So I'll just call this living room. And you can do floor by floor or sequences or whatever's the appropriate fit. Now, when you're actually using their plugin, the Visual Live plugin in Navisworks, they also recommend that you're mainly using this as a starting point with these viewpoints. So watch this. If I go to living room and in dining room, it goes to those different sectioned areas that we saved. And what you'll want to do is you'll actually hide specific objects that you don't want to see or include in the export when you use their plugin. Again, I can't demonstrate it, unfortunately, because I just don't have, I have too new of a version of Navisworks. But it's very easy to do, and this just showcases that if you have multiple models, but you don't want to export all of those models combined, you want to get to a very focused area, you can use viewpoints, and then you can hide objects and publish just certain sections of the model from Navisworks.
So when I first load up Visual Live, I'm going to see the models that I want to work with. I'll select that model and I'll just press load. Okay, so the model will initially load here in space, and then basically what I need to do is I need to go ahead and orient it or align it. And let's just get the Visual Live menu out of the way here. I'm going to actually use this radio panel to align. So I'm going to pick there, and I'll go across to the other side on the top. Then it's mapping the real world. And so then I can come over here to my radio panel. And now I am pretty well aligned as a good starting point here. And then the next step is we'll just go to return, and then we'll go up to model tune. And then essentially what I can do is I can look at this drag gizmo, which actually you can actually grab it, but it'll showcase the directions of X, Y, and Z. So if I want to move or rotate this model a little bit, I can easily fine tune this. So let's say that looks pretty good actually over here, but if I wanted to move this up and down a little bit, we would see that there is the yellow Y. You can adjust your increment here. But now I'm moving that model down. And you can actually see if you're looking here that it moves it down. And then if I needed to rotate this a little bit, I could do that. And again, you can actually just air tap and grab to adjust the alignment however you need to. And that looks pretty good. Now once you've got everything done, you just go ahead and say return, and then you can come in here and say lock position, and then just pick a place in the physical world where you actually want to lock this model to. And then that'll synchronize with the cloud. And you'll see the white cloud symbol there when it's actually synchronized. So that spatial anchor is remembered, so the next time that I come in here and I'm moving around a room and I want my models automatically aligned, that's what that spatial anchor and that locked position is essentially doing. Now, this is pretty cool in the sense that I am hands-free, right? So I can use my hands to do any kind of work, and especially if I'm a field technician coming out here, I can see that I may need to measure in physical space just to verify the dimensions that I see here, but then I've got the part. I can actually do my dimension work, cutting things, and see the digital model overlaid while I'm doing my work hands-free. So that's one of the advantages of using the HoloLens versus using an iPad or a mobile device with the augmented reality.
So now I'm on my iPad Pro, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the Visual Live app. Basically, I'll see the list of models, and I'm going to go ahead and just select the electrical model that we were previously just looking at on the HoloLens. I'll then just go ahead and say load. All right, so the model is now visible here, sort of like in a virtual mode, but I'm going to switch up at the top to augmented reality. Now what it'll do is at first it's going to start trying to search for anchors in the physical environment. So I'm actually just going to lift this up, and I'm going to move over to where I have the anchor.
Detected.
So it's doing a physical scan of the real world. And then basically what it does is it says, okay, hey, I found that anchor in the cloud based on what I see in the real world. And this is how I'm going to go ahead and align and place essentially my model. Okay, so I had to do some refined alignment even with the anchor, but I just wanted to walk around so you could see really stable. I really like the iPad experience. It's just a little bit crisper as well. You know what I mean? And you can control essentially a lot of the commands and things a little bit easier on mobile. It's just more responsive, just probably because I'm a little bit more used to working on a mobile tablet and things like that. But pretty neat. And again, what's really cool is here I am, I'm a field technician. I can see the dimensions, the instructions. I can get really up close. I can see exactly what I need to do. I can measure it out, even scribe out like some dimension lines of where I need to cut that, and just make sure with augmented reality, I'm in the right spot. Now there's a couple things that you can do workflow wise with Visual Live. So the first thing is if I actually go down to the bottom here, there's a menu where I can go between different things. And let's go to this issue option. Now there's the ability to do a capture. So I can take a screenshot and then I can fill in the information. And then the next cool thing is that I can actually decide where do I want this issue tracked. Do I just want it like on Google Drive or something like that, or you know, out in the cloud? It looks like they've got a OneDrive integration here as well. Then there's also integration with Procore, and then it looks like BIM 360. So this is pretty cool that you can do all of the capturing here, and then you can sync back to your normal cloud-based project management system. All right, now the final piece that I'll showcase here is I'm gonna go down to status. And so what's neat about this is if you're doing commissioning or you're just doing a daily work update to verify that scope has been installed and everything looks correct, not only can you track issues like I did before, but I can actually come in here and set these different statuses. So I'm gonna go ahead and set these to installed, and then when I just finger tap on that item, you'll see that that shows as being installed. And I can just go ahead and tap on additional objects here, and then you'll see that essentially here the status and progress report will update, and then it will remember and store this information for reporting purposes. So pretty neat first experience with Visual Live. I'm a little bit more familiar and kind of like the mobile, just from a just usability point of view and kind of the commands and navigating. But I will say the HoloLens is still always fantastic because you can essentially work hands-free, see a digital overlay exactly where you're going to be working, which is just a little bit easier than actually moving around with your tablet or your mobile device. If you found this content useful, please subscribe to our channel and press the alerts button to be notified when we upload new content.